What's going on, guys? Welcome back to Clash of Cosmos. This is episode 34. I'm Dylan, alongside the duo box of Darius and Mila and Mr. NGF Andrew. You know what? I'm just happy that we're all back and we're all deciding to twin on the same episode because I think we look very cute. But welcome back, guys. Right before season 2 here, we've got a lot to kick into. We've got Joao Klauss, our German-Brazilian hybrid number 9, who is our quote-unquote Ricky replacement, if you want to say it for a lack of better terms. We'll talk about him and how he fits with the squad. We'll then talk about the new addition, which is Erik Thommy, another German. This guy's actually German, though. Not Brazilian German. We'll talk about his fit and then whether that leads the Galaxy to needing more signings or getting rid of players. We'll talk about that. We'll do our CVI, kind of like what we're looking for out of the new preseason, and maybe we have some news there. And then we will start a new adventure, which we are going to call COC Road Trip. And I am going to make everyone wait until the very end of the episode to figure out where we are going. But we might as well just kick on into it. Alrighty. Plug. As of recording 208, I want to say thank you to everyone that got us to 200 subscribers. We are very appreciative. We have 2 podcasts. If you want to check those out, do that. We also post daily content on all social medias. You can see our beautiful faces there all the time. So I don't have any more to say. I get really bored of doing these plugs because at this point, if you're not subscribed, I don't know what you're doing. All right. Let's talk about Joao Klauss. Joao Klauss, our German-Brazilian striker.
Are we even sure he has any German heritage?
Or yes, he does.
Okay, look at him. That's a pretty looking man.
I was just making sure we
his name is Klauss, dude.
Crossed our T's and dotted our I's.
Joao Klauss. Yeah, Joao Klauss has German heritage. I watched a 30-minute interview that he did for St. Louis. And he was like, "Yeah, I have German heritage." So
there's a trend.
I did my research on this guy.
there's a trend going on at the Galaxy right now, is what I'm seeing.
We always like to lock on to one nationality.
We have 2.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Is it was French for a while,
yeah,
and then Brazilian, and then Japanese.
And now, right now it's Brazilian and German. We brought in the hybrid man,
a little fusion.
Brazilian. If this were FIFA, the chemistry would be crazy.
The OG links.
Yeah, exactly. All green.
It'd be a lot of orange links, not a lot of green links. That's for sure. Okay, so yeah, let's break. I did a whole video on what my initial thoughts were, so I'm gonna push it over to you guys to kind of talk about where you think he fits. Do you think this is the quote unquote Ricky replacement? Are you sad, happy, or anywhere in between on this signing? I think I know your guys' opinions on it, but I kind of want to start with Dari first because I think you might be the lowest out of the 3 of us.
Yeah, I mean, he would play against us. He always did well against us, but I mean, I feel like we always have those random players that just have a way to get behind our defense every time. I think it all depends on how we use him. I think he can be a great player if we utilize him correctly. I wasn't really sold on him in the beginning, but all the stats you guys have been feeding me have got me a little bit more sold on the idea of him as a DP. I originally was not very happy with it being a DP signing, just thinking that we could get someone who's a little bit more of a game changer. He feels like someone who can be the final piece of a good team, which we do have. So I think I was just I jumped the gun on it a little bit, and I'm coming around on it. I think he can be a good piece. I'm talking about his hold-up play. I think that's stuff we saw really well in the system from Nascimento, and it seems like that's an even stronger aspect of his game. So I'm excited to see that.
Yeah, that's fair. I think I'm in the same boat as you. I'm going to wait to talk about some negatives because I've been kind of positive only online. So Mila, what are your thoughts on this signing, and do you think it's a good fit for the Galaxy?
Yeah, I'm definitely more positive on it, but I think Dari covered a lot of good points. Andrew and I were going over it in the chat a bit. I'll let him get into the statistics, but he just does a lot of the stuff that we haven't had. And in terms of what Nascimento offered, yeah, it was good, but it wasn't the full package, and it wasn't a refined piece of work. Whereas Joao Klauss feels like it is, and surrounding him with a Peck and a Paintsill and even a Royce and now Thommy, I think even Yamane, like he's got options to feed him, and he's also got opportunities to get himself assists, which I think is going to happen this season. On top of that, we just compared the profile of Nascimento and Klauss. They're kind of similar. And once Dari said that, it kind of makes sense to me that he can be here to mold Nascimento also into kind of that player that we want as well.
Yeah, agreed. All right, Andrew, it's your time to go through the stats and kind of tell us why this fit makes sense, maybe because of a former Galaxy player.
Yeah, I definitely want to get into the numbers. But I think just first of all, from an administrative standpoint, I'm pretty impressed with the move. All of a sudden, going from planning the season with Ricky Puig to hearing that he's going to be gone within, a day's notice, that he's going to be gone all season. The Galaxy were in a pickle. That was one of the things we talked about. I feel like the last time we spoke is that this is going to be a challenge for them to find the right profile on such short notice with such, limited restraints. We didn't have the most space in terms of GAM, salary cap, any of that to make any type of really significant Ricky Puig level signing, for example. The idea of finding a DP player willing to take just a 1-year contract to not mess up our DP situation was also something that seemed pretty, rare. That was like finding a needle in a haystack. Not many DP caliber players are gonna not have a certain future. They want a multi-year contract, so that seemed difficult. There's just so many things that made a proper signing feel like a challenge, but I think the Galaxy showed that they've really grown, and the other signings they've made this window as well have indicated that. Everybody's backing numbers have been fantastic, and I think that's a good segue into the numbers that we're going to take a look at. The last successful, Galaxy striker, as we all know, who we all dearly miss, Dejan Joveljic, now at Sporting Kansas City, which is also a little bit relevant with everything we're going to be talking about. But Klauss is, not that different of a profile from Dejan Joveljic. These numbers might be a little bit small, but it goes over Klauss and Joveljic's past 3 seasons in the league from 2023 to last season. Dejan does have more goals, more goal contributions in general, but he does also have some more minutes. And you could say he was playing in a much better LA Galaxy with Ricky Puig behind him, with the Killer Peas. Those numbers aren't in there. So you have to factor that versus Klauss, who's playing in the SKC side, which, there's not too much to say in terms of their attack. A little bit less now that we got their man Thommy, but there's just very different environments surrounding each of these numbers. And when you kind of take into account these, the Puig effect, basically inflating Joveljic's numbers, and the SKC effect, let's say, bringing down Klauss's, you kind of meet at the middle, and you're thinking with maybe an improved environment. Klauss is a proven striker. That's probably one of the strongest points, is that he has experience in the league. It's basically going to be plug and play. He's a little bit older, kind of at that tail end of a striker's prime, but still right about there. This is a player who should come in and should produce a good amount of goals. He won't have Ricky Puig behind him, but there's still, even now, especially after the moves that we're going to be talking about, there's a really impressive team. So I think numbers-wise, there's obviously, we can see how this signing fits, how this is in the mold of a striker that Greg Vanney has been successful with. So I feel like the front office, Ravi Ramaneni, Will Kuntz, they did their job. Now it's up to Greg Vanney and Klauss himself to try to get the most out of this 1 year that they have. But I think there is reason to be excited.
Yeah, I think I agree. And for anybody who had a slight seizure watching me try to fumble around to figure out what the best layout was for that, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry, but it was totally worth it because we got there at the very end. I'm optimistic for the most part. There's a couple of things that I kind of want to talk to you guys about because like I said, I've been mostly optimistic online, but there's a couple of things that stick to me as like I don't know if I'm completely sold. And one is he scored 3 goals against the worst LA Galaxy defense I've ever seen in my entire life, which if you had taken those 3 goals out, that one game, he finished with 7 goals last year. At any point for an LA Galaxy striker to only have 7 throughout the course of the season, like to put it in perspective, Nascimento had 6 in half a year. So the pressure on that particular position is so heightened with the Galaxy. And I know St. Louis's team wasn't as good, but he still had some talent around him. Like, I don't know. I get a little concerned with the lack of production throughout the course of his career, especially with a guy like Hartle. I think it's pronounced Hartle behind him, who is their DP Cam center mid. So like, I guess if someone wants to refute the idea of that, or like it has any, like he's going to be better because we're playing with better players around him, go ahead and speak your mind. But that's my major concern is he hasn't proven to me that he can score 10 plus goals yet in the league. I know it's exactly 10 across 2 seasons, but it's not more than that.
I just deep the stats a little bit with that Hartel guy. I mean, he had 4 assists. If you're a DP10, it's kind of average. Not even average. That's very bad. He had 9 goals though, so it seems like he just might be a different profile from what we're used to at that 10 position, and that affects Klauss. Whereas if you put a Royce behind him, who's going to be giving him little flicks for him to finish off, then I don't know. It's a good point though. I mean, I'm just trying to play devil's advocate.
No, and that's fair. My only, I also looked at the stats because this was a guy that I was actually thinking about when we were talking about that DP guy that potentially could be here long term. He came into my mind as someone who could do both roles, and he created 99 chances last year. He had an expected assist rate of 9.4. So it wasn't like he wasn't creating, somebody wasn't finishing the chances. And that person for me was Joao Klauss. But it's tough because he wasn't necessarily healthy during the beginning of the season. He scored goals in bunches, and St. Louis sucked. And so that's why I'm a little concerned with this idea of the signing. Is just that we know that he can score goals, but we haven't seen it over a consistent period. And for a team that needs to get started hot and needs to continue hot after the World Cup, that's where I get concerned. Is if he can score goals in bunches, that's great. But I need to see him score goals consistently throughout a season. Like he can't go 4 or 5 games without a goal. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I don't think that'll happen. Okay. Also, though, that going 4 or 5 games without a goal and going 4 or 5 games with no impact is very different. So if he has the ability to just not to impact the game outside of goal scoring, like it's fine if he has a little bit of lapses. Strikers always have some lap at some point.
Yeah.
But the goal is that consistency, I think.
Yeah, and I feel like our team is not really so reliant on a striker doing everything productive. I mean, last season we were not good, but goals were spread out pretty much across the board. And I mean, our title-winning season, it was the same thing. It was pretty evenly spread out between Puig. I mean, obviously our top players, but it was pretty evenly spread out. So, I mean, I think I could see him having an impact without maybe having the most productive goal record. Yeah.
I'm not trying to argue this, but I think it's also maybe an interesting point. Is there less pressure on Klauss to not have those 4 or 5 goal runless droughts if he has the backing of someone like Nascimento? There's other options that Greg Vanney could. If we have 3 strikers scoring 1 goal every 3 games each, that's about a goal a game if you use them in the right way. Does that alleviate the pressure in any sort of way? I'm not trying to make that point.
No.
As well.
That argument should be the sensible argument, which is he shouldn't have to go 4 or 5 games without scoring as long as he has impact. But the concern for me is, and the reason that I'm going to have the thumbnail titled as the Ricky replacement, is that's what he is this season.
That's another
money
thing
wise.
Yes,
he's the
no,
main role as well.
he's not replacing Ricky's role on the team. He's the DP replacement. He's just filling the role of the DP.
Mm-hmm.
And then
Right,
also
right.
we have to bring up the fact that we have two DP wingers that massively underperformed in terms of goal scoring last year. So, like, yes, these are questions that we definitely should ask of Klauss, but I think the questions should be asked of the whole front line.
No,
and
agree.
if none of them, if they don't help each other out in those situations, then we're not going to get anywhere. It's going to be like last season, and we're just going to be fucking frustrated because they're whiffing shots left and right. I don't think that's going to be the case, but I think that's where him also just being able to do off-ball stuff, help us win the ball back up front, let Peck and Paintsill get a quick little easy goal. Like that shit's going to build confidence rapidly. And I'm not so sure that just him bagging is what we got him for.
I see. It's funny because what I see Klauss as, and you're in the same mindset, is he doesn't need to be that like goal scorer, productive 9 in that way. While he can be, I don't think that's his.
And like
no.
Yeah. Well, sorry. I just want to go back to those stats. Like that was the main thing for me. No, we don't have to go look at it, but I can just bring it up. The main thing for me was that Jovic is significantly more lethal as a striker. He took way less shots and converted way more on target. Klauss doesn't have that clinicalness to him, just based off stats. I haven't watched much.
No, you're right.
But that's where the other stats being so much higher, like that's where it makes sense to me. Because if he was just not as good as Jovic and we just got a 28-year-old who couldn't finish as well as what we were used to, then it's a miss for me. But if you look at all this other stuff, he has like 100 more interceptions or something. Like a ridiculous amount of tackles won. For a striker, these are good statistics. And it's going to help us, especially with a high press and like quick wingers. I think it's going to be so good to have him. I'm kind of talking myself into throughout this podcast because I haven't.
Look. I'm sold on the idea of him as a stopgap, and like that's the thing that I'm most impressed about with this entire window is we made win now moves with the center backs, and then after all that happened, Will Kuntz had to make the decision of like, what the fuck do I do with this Ricky injury? And I'm just happy that we have a competent front office that they made a decision that has sense to it. Like there were front offices before with Klein that we were like, what the fuck? What is this mess that you've created? But Will Kuntz has come in with a plan of like, I'm going to maintain stability now while keeping the flexibility of Ricky in the future. And look, Klauss wasn't supposed to be a DP this year with St. Louis. They were going to buy him down if they kept him. That was the reporting. Whether that happened or not, we don't know. But going into the next season, a 29-year-old that you can give a TAM deal to, with the addition of Ricky Puig, that could be really lethal. Or potentially if someone leaves, you bring in another DP.
Yeah.
Kumbaya. But
we really don't want him bagging too much this year, then.
No. So here's the
we can pay him less.
So we can pay him
it's like 25 goals this year.
I just don't see anyone giving him the money as a 29-year-old. So
that's fair.
Yeah, he's gonna have
money.
Magical season.
He'd have to have like a golden boot year or something crazy. Like if he pulled Dayon numbers, which Dayon last year had 18 goals. Like the dude's just a freak. Like we unfortunately had to let go of maybe the best striker outside of Zlatan that we've had in the club's history, dating back to Robbie Keane.
Okay,
he's better than Dos Santos.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. Like, and that's why it's tough. I want him to be successful. I just have some reservations on some of the fit. Now, with that being said, we did make another signing, and that signing helps this fit even a little more, which is Erik Thommy, a guy coming from SKC that had, I think, 8 goal contributions last year, but through the course of his SKC career, he's had 10 plus pretty much every season. He played primarily off the wings last season. I think that's pretty much all of his.
Yeah, most of his career
minutes.
is pretty much a winger play.
Yeah, so I know that he's played some minutes in the 10, but does anybody think that this guy is the 10 that we need?
I don't think he's going to be the 10. I think we might. I honestly don't really think there's too much of a chance that we see him utilized in the 10 that often. I feel like if Royce is hurt or we have to change formation, it's not going to be. It's going to be rather a change of formation rather than slotting him into the 10. But yeah. I mean, time will tell. I that's just what I think. I don't really. I've kind of watched a decent amount of him. Like he always seemed to feature against Galaxy. I watched a bit of SKC this year to track Jovic, and I mean, it seems like he's an out and out outside midfielder or winger.
Yeah, agreed. Andrew, do you have any? Are you concurring with that thought?
Yeah, this is another one where the underlying numbers I feel like kind of impress as well, especially when you think about it and who he's really in essence. I feel like replacing who is Diego Fagundes, our player of the year last season, someone who was kind of a Swiss Army knife for Greg Vanney, but he played out on the wing. He played in the 10. He played as a 6. He's someone who could play all over. Thommy isn't necessarily that, but he has shown at least a little bit of an inkling that he may be able to become that type of player. Greg Vanney isn't afraid to ask his players to learn other roles. So that's not something I would entirely rule out, especially considering, like Dari mentioned, if Royce gets sick or if there's, some other thing that causes a formation, those things are going to happen. So I think we might see that out of obligation at some point in the season. Who knows? But it's, again, just looking at the numbers here, we see a lot more goal contributions, a lot more assists. The underlying numbers that Dylan mentioned previously with Klauss, that Mila talked about, the tackling, the interceptions, and the crosses, is just, a lot more dynamism. So if you think of this signing as a Diego Fagundes replacement, looking at just these numbers right here, it seems like a 10 out of 10. The questions do arise on where is he going to play. Like Dari mentioned, he's really like a winger and outside player. To ask him to play inside may be a bit too much of a change, especially with, moving, all these other things going on. That may be a bit much. It might not be in the plans. And so the question becomes, where do we use him on the wing? How do we use him on the wing with the tools that we already have? Is he going to play at the same time as Peck and Paintsel? Is Paintsel going to be, a false 9 and we'll see 2 wingers? Is he going to go ahead and switch wings? There's just a lot of different options. Or is he going to be a substitute player, kind of just a depth piece? Is that the role he's going to play? A lot to be seen. I feel like preseason might give us some answers. But there's definitely some questions. It's kind of a similar situation to Klauss. There's questions. There's reasons to be concerned, reasons to be a little bit optimistic that it is a good fit. But I think it's also just acknowledging the context of the situation as well, that these maybe they would have and wouldn't have happened regardless of what happened with Puig. I think that Klauss probably definitely not. But with this signing, it's a little bit more in the air. Who knows? But if there's a little bit of that pressure of this is a Puig replacement, kind of someone else to supplement those numbers that we're missing, I think it's, these are not the most unimpressive numbers. There is something there to suggest that there could be success, but anything can happen. So we got to see. But yeah, again, just the reasons there to be a little bit excited.
Yeah, it's a great signing. At the end of the day, like, Will Kuntz has pretty much knocked this entire window out of the park. Like, we have 4 guys that can play starter minutes. Thommy played starter minutes throughout his career at SKC. Now, that being said, SKC were shit throughout most of that. So I'm not going to that. You have to discount that a little bit, which makes this deal even better because he comes in not as a TAM, not as a DP. He comes in as just a normal roster player who's going to make not a lot of money and can give you reliable minutes. And I think, Mila, if you want to talk about this a little more, the main critique that you had last year was if Peck or Paintsel weren't firing, there was nobody.
You literally knew what I was going to say.
Mm-hmm.
The brains are connecting again. Yeah, that was the main thing for me. I actually don't want to see him inside whatsoever. I think we sacrificed specialists in positions last year for versatility. And if you want to look at the entire roster, you could basically say that because we just had people playing out of position all over the 11. now we have a backup winger. Finally, I think maybe it's been more than 2 years since we had a backup winger. Even when we had some, they weren't good.
I mean, our last time I can remember was just when Fagundes wasn't starting.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah,
Boyd is what I think of as well.
Boyd was a starter.
Yeah, Boyd was a starter.
You know what I mean? Like we let Boyd.
In my mind, what I'm talking backup winger is Cabral and
Cabral was the DP.
That's true. That is true. He was just asked.
He played like a sub.
In my mind, he was the sub, even though he was starting every game. We were just screaming at him. I'm blanking on the other guy.
So every time we've had a sub, fucking Grand Seer, I mean, it was supposed to be
Grand Steer, maybe.
Efrain was supposed to be.
I know. Like, we just haven't had quality in that position.
Yeah.
Far from it.
Forget everything I just said, but we've had bad wingers. And now that we have good wingers, we have nothing to support them if they go down with a knock, if they are not playing good on the day, which happens. They're athletes. It's not like they're perfect every game. We saw that last year. If Peck misses 4 chances and he's just not putting them away on the night, we have Thommy to put in, who can go put up something. He can try to go get us a GNA. Same goes for Paintsel. Like it's just an option for these guys to have, like either a rest or just someone else to rely on. And I think that's perfect for what we need. And I think I'm kind of on Dari's page with it's just going to be a tactical change. We have the personnel in the midfield to go a little deeper, to sit a little deeper and just control it there instead of trying to create, because we don't really have the creators to fill in there. Like they can play a little higher up the pitch. I don't think they're going to do the role of a 10 though. So, yeah.
Yeah, I agree with everything. I just go back to the intent of all these signings. Like last season, we had to get rid of a bunch of guys, and the guys that we brought in to fill those roles were children, right? It was Winder, Sanabria, and we were like, hey, like you guys need to get to the level right away. And that was one, it was unfair to them because none of them were ready for that jump, and Nascimento as well. This year, we're going to bring in proven MLS talent, the guys that have been in the league, know their role, know their situation. We're going to put them in better positions and better situations, and we're going to hope that means that they rise to the top. And I think it's just good competition. Like, to your point with Peck and Paintsel, last year, there were some games where you were just fucking cursing the whole time. Like, what the fuck is this garbage? And sometimes it was tired legs or them just being shit. And now we have a guy that if Greg Vanny wants to just rip into one of the 2 DPs, he can do that and be like, hey, look, go sit on the fucking bench. I'm putting in a proven talent here that knows exactly where to be. And that's good. That's good.
Yeah, I think the pressure part of it too.
Yeah.
Just the fact that you can lose your spot. I think it's a little harder in this league just because we have the whole DP thing.
But their spots had never been more guaranteed than last season.
Exactly. But like with someone that is capable of getting a couple starts and lighting a fire under their asses, I think that's huge, especially just training mentality. Hopefully it brings a little something more.
Yeah. With CCC, you're going to have a bunch of travel here too. So if you can dominate first legs in the first 2 rounds, and then the second leg at home, you can put in a guy like Thommy to just eat 90 minutes. That's fucking fantastic. Like, Paintsel had the injury early on in the season. Peck got knocked up to shit. And part of this you have to realize is just like, Ricky's not going to be here. So someone's getting kicked in the shins. That's going to be the next 2 guys up in that ladder. Like, nobody's going to go kick Joao Klauss. Like, he's a 6'3" freak of nature. I expect him to fucking kick back, if anything. So the other 2 guys are flair guys. Are gonna take some beating, and that means that having good rotation is always welcome. To your point, I think Rancier was our last backup winger,
crap.
I think he started games.
He ended up having to start games because Douglas Costa never played. That's all I'm saying about that. I was like, he was starting winger.
Douglas like that. Actually, I need to send him my jersey, but shout out LA Galaxy shitpost. He's gonna take Douglas off the back of my very cursed jersey.
You should send it to Douglas to get it signed.
Send it to Douglas. Send a video of it getting taken off of Douglas being like, fuck you.
Douglas won't pay his fucking kids child support. He's not signing my fucking jersey. He's not signing.
If you pay him, maybe.
Pay the child support.
Yeah.
Touche. Does I sent where he's playing. Does anybody remember?
Isn't he in like this like 4th tier French football or something?
It's something crazy. Andrew, I feel like you had something else to say on Thommy. I'm gonna look up where he's currently at. And until then, I feel like you did. Do you have any more to say about Thommy?
I like it. It's cool that he's German. We're just kind of a German-speaking friend. And now there's 3 of them with Klauss, so that'll be fun. Maybe we could do like an Oktoberfest night or something.
I think there is a Oktoberfest
I think
night.
they
Or
already
was that last year?
I hope we do it again. If we do, I think we'd be missing out on an opportunity if we didn't. I hope the media team gets on that, the promotion team. But yeah, I think the idea of competition is a really interesting one just on the day-to-day. But yeah, also thinking if CONCACAF Championship, it's going to be, you need a deep team, especially, in the playoffs as well, you need to be extra deep. So it fills a ton of holes. It's just a lot of check marks. We could say a lot of good things about these signings, and that's not something we've always been able to do. So, just take a moment, thank Kuntz, pray to whichever God you believe in, thank him, express gratefulness. That despite everything, I think there's still some hope out there, I feel like, the meme of the guy with the blanket, and he's just kind of looking into the camera. I feel like that guy. Everything's going to be okay. Kuntz got us.
It absolutely is. And Dari, you were close. It is the 4th division of Italian football. He is
like Gremio or something? No.
Chivio Verona. Chivio Verona. This in Serie D until the end of the season, transferring from FC Sydney. But the Thommy question, I think that
free agent.
he signed on January 17th. Benvenuto. That's what it says. I have a graphic that says Benvenuto Douglas Costa.
He was playing in Australia.
Yeah, for Sydney, and then they let him go. They made him a free agent. Sorry, it says he left. I think he was let go. Anyways, I think the Thommy edition still poses questions, and one of them is the Galaxies have a lot of players, a lot of returning players. Does anybody feel that there are some players that need to go? Obviously, Klauss is an addition here. We can talk about Ramirez if we want to start.
You think he's an obvious one?
Yeah, I think everyone thinks maybe. I don't know though. Like
he's with the Nazi loan.
Yeah, with the Nazi loan, it's interesting because what if we end up like not? We're gonna have to make some moves last second for a backup striker. If Nascimento, if we decide not to go with him, it's dangerous.
You imagine that he's going to be there to fill in that 6-month gap at the very least. If he has that contract, might as well see it out. Worry about it next week.
And he's not making that much, is he?
I think he's still making like 500, 600,000, which is a lot in comparison. Like, I think that might be more than what Tommy's going to end up making.
Damn.
The only issue now is because we brought in Klauss, and the assumption is that he takes on a TAM deal or you let him walk, is that Nascimento is not getting bought for $6 million. You know what I mean?
Yeah. That was a pretty tough ask, to be honest. It always came down to if he proves it with like a crazy season. But
yeah,
it's difficult to say how much hope the Galaxy had in that realistically happening.
I was very okay with the idea of Nascimento playing and us fostering him and this being a gap year if that was the case, and we used the DP money on a 10 so that we could figure out if he was worth the $6 million. But also, I just don't think $6 million is that much money in today's market. Like, I think I talked about it that Jovic was like 4.5 when we signed him, which if you inflate that 4 or 5 years, like that's probably $6 million. And Nascimento has talent. The only issue now is if you're going to be paying Klauss to play your striker minutes all the time, even if he's a high TAM, Nascimento becomes useless isn't the right word, but if he's only playing 20, 30 minutes.
Redundant.
Yeah, and for a young guy, like he doesn't want those minutes. He wants to start somewhere.
Yeah. What if he's the backup 10?
That's not a bad shout. Or I
don't know the shadow striker.
I could wait, you saying Klauss or
Nassi? I
could low-key see maybe Klauss being that kind of center forward, like a deep line,
like a striker.
Yeah, especially if he has those underlying stats of kind of more defensive, I think that could be really productive as a pressing 10.
But then we really need Ramirez.
I-
we have
I-
nobody. We have nobody there.
I
My
think we'll get-
Well, we got him,
I-
right? So that's not a problem.
My only issue with that is I'd rather see them both play as 2 strikers and not as a 10. And that I think heightens the
technically,
idea
they
that we
wouldn't
need
be a 10. They would technically
That's
be
what
two
it would be,
strikers. It would
yeah.
just be one guy would be sitting underneath the
I
other.
don't-
Technically a 10.
my personal belief is that neither of them can do that role. Because I don't
think
think
that
Klauss has
maybe-
the Klauss has the long range passing to play that role.
I
And I
see
don't think
Nasi
Nasi
doing
has
that
either.
though.
I'm
I
not sure
don't-
if
I don't know how much.
It's not as
long
much
range you need to
long
get
range
them.
passing in the Vanny
Yeah.
system, though. It's a lot more
Is it-
shorter passes.
One to another.
Yeah. So if we need someone to link up the play between our front 3, I think Nascimento can do that in a backup role, not as our main guy to do it. It's obviously Royce
Yeah.
this season to do that.
Especially if you think of the Pooj role as someone who does break those lines and gets you from the midfield to that attacking third. You replace that with players like Thommy, players like Peck. Eventually, I bet amongst all of them, you get a similar number of line breaks, so to speak. That I don't know. I like that idea as soon as Dari mentioned it. Got the wheels turning. I'm sure Greg started going crazy right now.
I don't know if I can see. I'd have to see a lot more tape of Nasi doing it. And maybe that's the issue is I'm
We haven't seen
not sure what
much
he
at
is.
all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's not much tape on him in general.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
I do think I think the reason this comes to mind though is because he has that on-field connection with Royce a bit.
Mm-hmm.
Hopefully, he can just kind of teach him also that part of the game, and he has good mentors to learn from, and he's young, he's moldable. We've
Yeah.
seen what he can do on the ball and in quick touches, quick space, tight spaces. Like, I don't think it's ideal to have him in that, but if we need someone to fill that role and we're looking at other people, I think it could work as an experiment.
There were times I feel like last season as well where we saw like a Nasi Berry, Nasi Ramirez
Exactly,
type.
but
I like
yeah,
the end of game. Like that might be an option.
They're gone.
I feel like that was just us throwing bodies at the net.
Oh yeah, I remember.
Right,
That
but I
could
feel like
totally
these would be
work.
bodies that I would be better suited at that. If it's something we do, if it's our Hail Mary, I feel like we got at least a little bit of a stronger Hail Mary.
No, that's 100% true. I mean, the floor today on this team is so much higher. But I'll pose this question to you guys because this is how I look at the departure section is would you get rid of and I think it has to be a U22 guy, right? So even if this potential departure gets delayed till the summer, would you get rid of Aude, Sanabria, or Nascimento to bring in a U22 8-10 hybrid? If it was like posed to you today, if you could do that today, would you make that departure? Like if Aude gets a call from Argentina and they go, hey, we want Aude, do you ship Aude off to bring in a guy that fits the 8-10 role? Or do you just stand pat and rather the Nascimento?
I'd rather keep the depth in the defense.
In the left back role, yeah.
Because that's a role that I don't know. It's a role that gets overlooked, I think. And I think if we end up having no depth there, it could be a pretty big problem.
But you did mention a couple options. I feel like I would take that Nasi trade. That's sort of how we kind of opened this discussion, that idea that Nasi probably isn't going to get re-signed. If he's not anyway, make the most of that space and do something like that. Fill that other massive hole that we've needed. So to me, I feel like that's just kind of there. It feels almost logical, almost like a layup.
I personally would get rid of Sanabria. Out of all the names that
I agree.
you listed,
I'm going to have to agree
like
with that.
that's the easiest one that we can fill the hole.
I just don't think he has much trade value at this point.
I think the kid's got immense talent,
I
but
agree.
if picking between him or Winder right now, I think Winder impressed me a lot more. And he's
Definitely, no
costs a
question.
lot
Well,
less.
Winder
than
has
he
a lot
did
more to
before.
offer, at least in this point in his game. I feel like he's much more of a physical presence. I feel like Sanabria, even coming from South America, I'd expect him to have a bit more bite in his game, but I think he got kind of overrun by the physicality of the league early on.
Yeah, I will say this. The only other guy, because I really don't want to get rid of Nascimento because I like him as a player. Outside of it being a layup in terms of just a straight swap, Aude might be the only guy that has true trade value left in his game, especially going back to Argentina.
I think he has some pretty big trade value.
The only issue is, personally, I just don't think that Greg Vanny uses him correctly. I think that he's a traditional wingback, and we don't play any formation that favors that.
Maybe
if we were to switch, we can. And this has been my biggest argument is like Greg needs to change and Aude can totally fill that role, which would be fucking awesome.
Mm-hmm.
But if he's not going to change, I think that Hack can potentially just play left back and step into the midfield. If that's going to be the way forward, like you could, your backup left back depth could just be Justin Hack.
I even think Harbour Miller.
Or Harbour Miller, sure, Cuevas. Like, I think that it doesn't seem like there's a lot of depth there, but I think there is.
If there's it just goes back to what we were talking about though. Like, do you want a guy that can do the job, like okay, at left back, or do you want a left back?
Right.
We have guys that can play left back, but we don't have many left backs.
I mean, how highly do you rate Nelson? Because he just extended.
So. Yeah.
No, I know, and I think that's fine. Like, they're going to be dogging out. We just talked about competition. It's good for Aude and Nelson to both be there, to be pressing each other. If one of them gets complacent, then the other one just takes the place. And I think that's how the relationship has pretty much been in that left back role.
As soon as you lose one of the two, it suddenly gets so shallow. One injury, and all of a sudden you're like, oh shit.
Yeah. No, I agree. I agree with that. I'm really my concern is that without a 10, Greg Vanny's system doesn't work. And that's because I haven't seen it work without Ricky. And I just don't think that it's either we're going to ask Royce to do too much, which potentially could hurt us in the long game, or we're just going to struggle to score goals in his style of play. So something's got to give. Either Greg Vanny's system has to give, or Will Kuntz's, or the depth's got to give. And we got to figure out what really we want. I think personally for me, I'd rather just find some stopgap 10. I'd love for Fagundes to just come back. And then the rotation would just be him and Royce. Look, I just don't imagine him. I know that everyone thinks that he's going to get signed somewhere. I feel like if you gave him something reasonable, or if you just moved off Ramirez and you gave him that contract, why wouldn't he take that? To stay in LA, somewhere he's comfortable, he can be the leader, and he'd be promised essentially, if not starter minutes weekly because of CCC. I feel like he'd take that. Does he need the payday like that? I'm not sure.
That portion insurance is not who knows.
This was also not me talking. It's not my money. Again.
So that's what I'm saying. You should have asked him how the bank account's looking.
I did ask him if we were going to see him in a kit, and he said that he doesn't know.
I know.
So but it sounded like he will. I don't think there was any animosity towards him not being. That's not what it.
No, I don't think like that at all.
We'll talk about it a little later, but I think the acquisition that our special team, our road trip team made is kind of where I'm heading in. That direction is what I'm heading in, and that's what I want to see. But we'll wait on that because we'll talk about Coachella Valley Invitational. I'm going to announce it here. If you guys want to meet the COC crew, we're going to be there. At least 3/4 of us, if not all 4 of us, will be there. We're going to watch the team, but we'll put it out here. What do you guys want to see going into preseason? What's like the main thing that you want to see? Because obviously we're not going to get full minutes on Sunday, but what do you want to see?
I think you mentioned it.
See how Klauss fits in.
How Klauss fits in?
Yeah. I think that's going to be probably the most interesting storyline in the start of our season. At least for me, I'm very interested to see how he fits. So
I want to see the defense. I think this just says a lot about Dari. I want to see that we don't concede goals, and that Yoshida interview with Kobe Jones just keeps sticking with me. He talks about a lot of stuff, and I think if we watched it earlier, we kind of would have realized he wasn't going anywhere. He harped a lot on how our defensive record last year hurt him in his soul. And he's our captain. I don't think that's acceptable for him. And he's going to make sure that that's different. We have the personnel for it. And he's going to continue to try. I think we are going to be so much better defensively, though. It's going to be life-changing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'm pretty excited about the defense as well. I'm not to say that I'm not. I just kind of think that that's a bit more of a certainty. I think we kind of nailed it out of the park with our defensive signings. So I'm less unsure about how that's going to turn out. I mean, I could be wrong. I hope not, but I think Klauss is a bit more of a question mark.
Yeah, Andrew, what do you want to see?
Yeah, for me, I want to see if Greg Vanney does get flexible. I think the first thing we all thought about as soon as we saw, especially that Justin Hack signing, kind of confirming like, holy crap, we have all these defenders. We could play a 5-back, a 3-back, whatever you want to call it, but we have a proper team for this. We have some depth, and I don't know. It just feels like the story is there with Greg Vanney doing so good with a similar 5-back in Toronto, winning that 3P, making history, earning himself essentially the LA Galaxy job, to finally get the chance to play that play style that won him all those titles, to bring him back out of the worst season of all time. There's just the storyline is too good to not see him return to that formation in any type of way. To at least not have that even in the back pocket. I don't care if it's not your main formation, but I want to see some variation. I want to see this team look comfortable in it, look like they've worked on it, that they've put in these minutes. That's what these preseason, it's really your only chance. We have 2-3 games, and 2 of them that we won't even get to see. So we'll get one chance to see if maybe there's some of that. Maybe they do want to keep that, tactical switch up behind closed doors to kind of catch teams more on guard, which I respect as well. But that's for me, since that Hawk signing, that's what I've been dying to see. I want to see Greg Vanney do some things up and make the most of this team. I feel like when you lose Ricky Puig, it kind of forces you to look in other directions. And it feels like these signings have kind of all been in that other alternate non-Ricky Puig direction, which is good for us long term. And if things look good and they get that system down and all these questions that we've just asked about all these players do get answered in a positive way, then there's definitely an exciting team there. But yeah, just stoked to finally get to see them in general again. It's what we've been waiting for a while. But yeah, I want to see some funky formations.
Yeah, that's where I'm at. I think Mila described our relationship as he is the man manager and I am the assistant manager that like is when Pep is like talking about all the players and there's the meme of him just like that might be where I'm at. So I am fascinated by
Ted
Hacks.
Lasso and Coach Beard.
Yeah, no, exactly. I'm fascinated in the idea of where Hack plays and how the stylistic trends go in terms of our formation. Like Mila said, we have 5 very competent center backs now.
4.
Rindolph
we have 4 very talented center backs. We have 4
real quick.
I'm not getting into that right now.
Oh, you're talking about Garces. I was talking about Rindolph.
Oh, he's competent.
Yeah, okay. So we have 4. Okay, so that's my thing is we have so many center backs on this team that it feels like going to a 3-back shape out of possession feels like a must. It feels like it has to happen. Like that's what you're gonna bench either Garces or Yoshida for multiple games. That doesn't make any sense.
No, you're
those
right.
are 2 really good center backs.
This is where the Hack fucking position comes into play and why they're teasing us with this stupid midfielder.
Yeah,
he's gonna be somewhere in between. I think he'll play both. It sounds
to
like
the point of what we were talking earlier. If we do play without a 10 and we are going to sit 2 pivot players of Hack and Cerrillo has a little more leeway to move forward, then that could also work. And we still can play a 4-back. It's just a little more reserved in the build-up. And then we spring forward. We're going to have to rely on target man Klauss in that situation or just the runs of the wingers.
Yeah. That feels like a very 2024 midfield recipe. You have like a more holding defensive midfield than either of Brugman and
Cerrillo.
And not Cerrillo, no, Mark Delgado.
There you go.
With either one of them sitting back, one of them venturing more forward, Brugman with those long, incisive passes, and in front of them, that real difference maker is Ricky Puig. We don't have that, but I could definitely see like a Hawk, Cerrillo, Royce type thing kind of having a similar effect to maybe that 2024 team.
Yeah. The only thing that I want to know from this game is who's going to be starting, because if you're looking at the rest of preseason, it's the 11th and the 13th. So look, nobody who is playing on the 11th is going to play the 13th, and vice versa. So there's a potential that he saves the starters for the 13th, but the season starts on the 19th. So after that game, there will only be 11 days. So we should know what this team is going to look like from that match. You've got 3 preseason games before. We should know at least the general shape and structure of what this team is going to be going into 2026. And if we don't, then I'll brace everybody. It's going to be a very interesting start to the season. I don't like that idea.
I don't know if we're starting off with that.
Yeah. But to Dari's point, I'm interested to see how Joao Klauss fits with the double P's.
Yeah, I think it's going to be very interesting. I want to see him bully some defenders.
Definitely.
All right. Oh, one more thing. I want to see Lepley play, just because I love Lepley. I think he's great.
That's the boy right there. He's
Tuck.
I think there's some room for him. I mean, depending on what happens with because I mean he can play kind of anywhere. He's a bit of that kind of Swiss Army knife type of player too. So I think there's definitely room for him to get some good minutes this season.
Great. All right, you guys want to go? You guys want to go road tripping?
Hell yeah.
Let's go road tripping.
Let's go.
That is never gonna get old. That is never gonna get old. I am so happy. Based on the bottom there, this is the C.O.C. Road Trip, and we are heading to Portland because we're going to talk about the Portland Timbers. I'm going to throw up the thumbnail just so everyone knows what these are going to look like. If you're looking on YouTube, this is what it's going to look like. We're all in the car, in the station wagon, and we're heading north to Portland.
Dari's driving.
Our tires in some air. It looks like
they're a little flat. That's okay. It happens. It happens.
That's what happens. That's a metaphor for last season.
Yeah,
we're about to pump up the tires.
Yeah,
don't worry.
Okay, so the only question I have in regards to the tires, does anybody know how to fix a flat, or do we all just need to call AAA?
AAA.
We could try.
I got my card on.
Tried before.
Yeah, we're calling AAA. We're not going to try to fix a tire. None of us know how to do it. Whoa, you guys fixed the tire?
No, we failed. We tried.
But now they know what not to do, so we'll be good.
Exactly.
That is true. That is true. So, okay, so this new end of episode series is going to be us going across the league or just in U.S. soccer in general. We'll take a road trip to that particular team, and we'll talk about that team. The start will be a preseason kind of thing, but as storylines pop up throughout the league, we want to be more connected throughout the league so that people that aren't just Galaxy fans can come on and at least watch a video or two and get some insight if they want to. It's not going to be great, but
and collab.
Yeah, exactly. We can have people on from other podcasts that can help us road trip across the continental U.S.
Show us the sites.
Show us the sites. So who wants to say what was it Mila, the 3 things that you know about, or was it Andrew, the 3 things that you know about Portland?
I know less than 3 things. That wasn't.
It was mine. Okay. It was mine. The 3 things I know. No, I can't say.
You
can.
You can.
Neville is the first thing.
Yes.
The second thing, Darlington Nabby. I know he's not at the club anymore.
He retired.
That is Portland.
Respect.
He retired.
3. They like wood.
They do like wood.
That's all I got.
So, Dari, you've been to Providence Park, correct? And do you want to break down your experience of going to Providence Park so people can understand?
I thought it was pretty cool. Honestly, I apparently went during like a protest, so the fan section was not as full as usual, but it was pretty cool. I feel like they're a good club with some good traditions. I like the the wood chopping. That was good fun. Even though they're kind of one of those teams that I have like a little soft spot for. They're fun. They have a good culture around them. So I don't know. We're just kind of glazing Portland now.
Agreed. I mean, Mila and I went to school in Eugene. I have a love for Oregon, and I've been to a couple of games myself, and I think that the Timbers Army and everything that they do there is really special. I think it's the closest thing to a European fan base that you can find in the league.
Yeah.
And I think that part of that, it kind of means that they're constantly aiming for cups. Whether that happens or not, they are aiming for cups, and I think they've made a couple moves this summer that indicate that they're trying to get over the hump. I think throughout Neville's tenure there, they've finished somewhere within the range of 43 to 49 points. So they haven't broken 50, which usually means that you're in the play-in or you're outside of the playoff spots, which is shit for a team that has way too much talent and always had, like, they had Evander and were shit.
Yeah.
And now they have Costa and were shit. And they beat San Diego in the playoffs in game 2 and then went back to San Diego and got pumped 4-0 to tell you the kind of standard there. But this is a very good squad. Like, they have DaCosta. They brought in Valde, I think is how it's pronounced. I could be wrong. He's a winger. And then they now get the return of Rodriguez, who was out for most of last season. So they've got a bunch of attacking talent. But the big signing that they made is Cole Bassett. And Dari, I think, has heard me speak pretty highly on Cole Bassett since we've gotten really back into the Galaxy, because I'm very high on this U.S. talent. Does anybody have any thoughts on this initial signing?
No.
Okay. I can wax poetic about Cole Bassett because I thought that was something that the Galaxy should have made if it was available. I would talk about Diego Luna being that same kind of archetype, right? And Cole Bassett is 20. How old is he? 20 something. He's young. He made his debut in Portland at like 19 or like 16. No, it was 16. So this has been like a U.S. prodigy for a long time, but a guy that plays in the 8 that is super forward thinking. Like, he wants to score goals. So for a Portland team that, one, just couldn't get firing on all cylinders, but also sucks defensively, this is a work rate demon in the 8 that can do a lot of really good things and can be asked to do a bunch of different positions. But the one player that it really opens up for me, and it's one of my favorite players across the league, which is DaCosta. I think the guy is, I don't want to clip myself, but I think he makes a MLS 11 this year. Like, I think he's going to be that good. And I think Eli Lesser tends to talk about this one theory. I can't remember it, but it's always that a player in their second season, that's really where you really judge them. And DaCosta being 25, coming to the MLS and going from France to Portland, which is like that's a crazy pipeline. I think that this year for him is the year that he breaks out and shows his true talent, because I think he's really of that level.
Yeah, that sounds exciting then. From what I didn't watch a ton of Portland last year, but I did watch their playoff games. I was in the airport a lot during the playoff run. So I had plenty of time to watch some of those games, and I was really locked in on a couple of the Portland ones. And they look like an impressive team at a lot of times. But it, like you mentioned, we're also capable of having these stinkers, and it felt like they just needed a couple of pieces to get over that hump. The way you describe players like Bassett and the other moves they've made, it feels like they're kind of plugging in those holes. And I think just across the league in general, I just love seeing this trend of so many more teams like going for it and seeming competent at it. It's exciting, I think, as a league, and Portland is definitely a big part of that movement. They're just doing what they need to do to take that next step. And you get the idea of the whole league taking one big step together. That's, great. Just everybody raising the standard, raising the floor. It'd be great if we could get that salary cap kind of raised as well to raise that floor a bit, even more. But besides that, it's great to see that teams, including Portland, are doing their due diligence. They're doing the right stuff.
Yeah, agreed. I'm going to pose the question because I'm going to get clipped up for this because I think it's going to happen. But with the additions of Brandon Bai, the MLS vet right back, with you know me in pronouncing names. He played for Club America, had a loan move with LAFC last season. He scored against us, and Cole Bassett. Those are the three guys that they marqueed themselves on this summer. Those additions to a squad that I think had 47 points last year. Do you guys think that for the first time under the Neville tenure, they finally get over the 50-point barrier?
I think they make playoffs. Yeah. Yeah,
I think so.
Andrew, you think they finally do it?
I'm a little more on the fence. I'm not quite sure. I can see like a high 40 season. You don't necessarily need to get into 50 to get into the playoffs. I don't doubt that they'll make playoffs. But yeah, I think it's a little bit more of a question for me.
That's fair. I'm gonna get clipped up. I think they surpass 50. I think it happens. Maybe it's a little of the soft spot thing that Dari was talking about, and I really like their fans, and I think they have the best home field advantage, which is not only their fans, but the fact that they play on turf.
Yeah,
that's a weird one.
Far away from everyone.
This feels like a make or break year for them in terms of their project, in terms of Neville. Like, I don't think you can go another year being a play-in team or just outside of it or just inside of it and not make progress, because there's been teams that have done worse before and have gotten over the hump. Like this Galaxy Tide were awful, won a championship. Vancouver were awful, got to a finals. Like, for Portland to kind of stick around in mediocrity, that doesn't sit well with me. I doubt that sits well with their front office, because like we just said, they spend a ton of money this summer. So I'm expecting them to make that leap to 50. Now, how much success in the playoffs? I'm not sure. Not sure.
Yeah. Lots of questions, but yeah, at the same time, all of that with that idea of the rest of the league getting better as well. Like, yeah, they've definitely raised their own ceiling. Did they raise it enough to not only keep up, but to take a step above? It's interesting. Yeah.
Agreed. Should we play the song one more time?
Have to.
Okay. We'll end it with this. And that has been your COC road trip. We're now back at the Dignity Health Sports Park.
Yeah, that's where we are.
That was rude and tooting.
Yeah. Can't you tell from my background here?
These are all just boxes.
They gave us those.
We sleep at the sports park.
Where else would we sleep? No, but I think that's a good place to end it. Do you guys have anything else you want to talk about?
I think we touched on it all.
We will see the Galaxy at Coachella Valley.
Yes. And I promise we will be more consistent to our new Galaxy fans or our old Galaxy fans. We will be more consistent, I promise. Maybe. It'll happen. No, we'll be back weekly to start season 2 at some point, but whatever, you know. If you want to stick around, like, we'll make videos or something. No, but seriously, I'm happy that we're all back. I'm happy that we're all twinning. Jesus. I'm happy that we took a road trip up to Portland mid-episode. That's pretty cool. And I'm happy that the Galaxy... What was that?
We got there so fast.
Well, dude, that's what happens.
That's crazy.
High-speed rail.
Dude, that station wagon. This station wagon right here. That's fast, dude.
It's a bullet station wagon.
The bullet wagon.
It's got the NOS in it. We hit it and we got back real quick. That's how we're. Oh, it could be the DeLorean type of thing from Back to the Future. Maybe next time I'll switch it to that. All right, let's get out of here. We've gone way too long for our normal average viewer. And Alex, sorry, Alex, you have another hour to deal with. We love you. I have been Dylan. That is our duo box of Mila and Dari. That is Mr. NGF Andrew. We have been Clash of Cosmos. This has been episode 34, and we'll see you guys in the next one.
Ballet, Highland champion. They're going to go alone. Still back. What a goal. It's 6. They just cannot stop scoring. The volley from Votto. Yes. San Jose carved open with a world-class pass from Ricky Pooch. Glittering Galaxy and winner.